All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Soccer Talk. I am digital producer Greg Rocool. Bo is off today, but fortunately, you won't have to wait long to see him talk some soccer. As we've maybe you've seen with some of our ads on the channel this week, we will have a broadcast of One Knoxville's home match against Chattanooga Red Wolves on WATE 6 News tomorrow night, beginning at 7 o'clock. So we'll have Bo Williams on the call for that game, joined by various guests up in the booth, and we'll also have sports reporter Casey K on the sidelines, giving you all the latest from this very exciting, intrastate rivalry between Knoxville and Chattanooga. But while we're here, we're going to recap Knoxville's most recent game against the Lexington Sporting Club and look ahead to the rest of this season. So let us get into it. One Knoxville came into this game riding a 5-match unbeaten run dating back to June 29th when they defeated Forward Madison 2-0 here at home. That was our first broadcast on WATE 6 News. And so they enter this match on some good form, coming off a week-long break. I got to speak with Jalen Chrysler, One Knoxville defender, last week. He just talked about the USL Players Association, which kind of, advocates for the rights of the players and their well-being. We're able to get a mental health break added into the season. It's a very long 8-9 month season. So they got to have this weekend off to kind of rest and recharge. So they enter this game, like I said, on the 5-match unbeaten streak and after a, 10, 14-day break. So against, once again, one of their biggest rivals, Sporting Club, that has been unable to beat Knoxville, in their 5 previous matches. So let's take this one. It was a very tightly contested first half, but the one Knoxville chance that really stood out in the first half came right in stoppage time by Kempis Tequila. Some great combination play after a couple of passes around by the center backs. Goes out wide to Danny Fernandez here, who then gets it back to Jalen Chrysler. And you see Kempis Tequila here float into a pocket of space. He quickly lays it off to Callum Johnson, who then finds Innocent Nshuti. Some great hold-up play by Nshuti. Finds Tequila and nearly able to connect right before halftime. Would have been great to go into the locker room up 1. But look at, the amazing hold-up play by Nshuti here to kind of pin his defender on that back hip and make that chance happen for Kempis Tequila. Let's just take a look at this one again, and you really see when Knoxville is at their best when they are combining, when Kempis Tequila is dropping into this space to combine with his teammates. And if only he could just... You see an amazing run by Callum Johnson that he continues into the box. Now, if Tequila was able to find him, potentially a one-on-one with the Lexington goalkeeper Amal Knight, but unfortunately that wasn't to be. But we see how just impactful the Kempis Tequila can be to this One Knoxville offense. Let's take it into the second half where we see another interesting build-up. You see Sievert Haugli kind of surveying the field here, dropping it into Castro, who then finds Kempis Tequila, who again kind of laces one from outside of the box, but in the end, a comfortable save from Amal Knight, the Lexington keeper. This is another instance where I think you see an opportunity for Knoxville to really exert themselves on the game, on the offensive half. Just the way that Sievert Haugli kind of is able to look up, survey the field, find one of those attacking players that's dropping off. If they're able to really push their advantage in situations like that, I think that's really going to be key for Knoxville as they kind of try to, push their offense into the next level. As I've mentioned on here before, this is one of the stingiest defenses in all of League One since Knoxville joined last year, but the offense has just been unable to match suit. They played over 50 games in USL play between regular season and now with the Jägermeister Cup, and they've only been able to score 3 goals in a game one time. But in instances like that where you see Haugli is able to find those forwards in dangerous positions, or some of that combination play you saw in the first half chance there from Tequila, that is where I think Knoxville's able to make the greatest strides. So we need to see those types of patterns of play more and more, not only in a game-to-game basis, but really in these last, 10, 12 games as Knoxville looks towards the playoffs. Let's keep it going with another highlight in the 79th minute. A nice little combination play off throw-in, Castro and Tequila. He lays it off to new signing Zaracostas, whose shot is blocked. It falls right to Tequila once again, who has an opportunity to shoot on goal, but it is straight at the keeper for Lexington. But like, you know, I sound like a broken record. It just goes to show how crucial Kempis Tequila is to this Knoxville offense. Just the way he's able to, you know, sag off some of the defenders, find a little pocket of space where he's able to, you know, control the ball and then combine with one of the teammates. You know, that is going to be the bread and butter of this offense. But as we mentioned before, the key is going to be who is going to be the main contributor in that front two next to Kempis Tequila. Is someone that they can, you know, combine with. You saw it a little bit in the first half with Innocent and Shooty, the way he was able to hold up his defender and create a chance for Tequila. We've seen that a little bit as well with Zaracostas, who you saw his shot was blocked in that clip. You know, that was a new signing that's just trying to join the team in the last 2 weeks here. He's made a couple of substitute appearances. And just another option in this offensive group that has not really been able to really get into a nice cohesive flow or, you know, really stake their claim as who should be the #1 starter next to Kempis Tequila. Let's take it into the 84th minute. You see a really nice combo layoff here on the sidelines.
Maybe
and
for One Knoxville,
from
diving
Rudy
stop
Castro
by Knight.
from outside the box. Ends
and
up getting
again,
tipped
number
out
13,
of the
keeping
way
this one
by
scoreless.
Amal Knight. Really great game from Amal Knight. Has been one of the more consistent goalkeepers in all of USL League One. Rudy Castro is another player who's got an opportunity, who still has kind of seemed like one of the more dangerous players on a regular basis alongside Kempis Tequila for this One Knoxville team. You know, he's got, you know, we talk about flair sometimes with attacking players who, you know, players that aren't afraid to kind of try maybe some of those, you know, tricks and, you know, a flick or a shot from outside the box like you saw there. Rudy Castro has really been, one of the most creative players in that regard for Knoxville. I would say him and Frank Ross are really some of the more, you know, flair type offensive players that they have. And I think having those kind of players in that attacking front 2 or 3 is going to be crucial for Knoxville. And I think they do really need to keep shooting from outside the box just to kind of keep defenses honest, knowing that, you know, let those defenses know that they can't just kind of pack in, you know, into their own 18-yard box and just cut off those passing lanes or block those shooting lanes. If you have a player like a Tequila or a Rudy Castro or a Angelo Kelly from midfield. Angelo Kelly missed out on this game with an injury, and he's another player that has shown a willingness to, you know, take on those long shots from outside the box. That really, you know, I think does help open up the defense for One Knoxville, because without that, you know, it really is a lot more manageable for that defensive group that they're going up against. If there's not that threat of a shot from outside the box, you know, it really is hard to break down a really organized defense that has kind of sat back into that defensive 18-yard box area. So if they can continue to have shots like that, or, you know, create those shooting opportunities from, you know, on the edge of the box or a little bit outside the box that can kind of draw out the defense a little bit, I think that would be another kind of opportunity for Knoxville to unlock their attack a little bit. So Knoxville did get one last chance right at the end of regulation of this match. It was a cross in to a Innocent and Shooty, whose header just went just wide, really right at the end of this game. So we take it into penalties, and One Knoxville did have to win this one to keep their hopes of advancement
goes to the bottom left
You
corner
see
again.
Abel Caputo step up and hit
This
the
one
first
expertly
one for
placed.
Lexington
Johan
here.
Garibay did his homework.
You know,
Not stopping that
Johan
one.
Garibay, usually the backup keeper for One Knox, but has come in and played pretty well in this season. Guessed
First
the right
this
way, but
season.
unable to save that one. So Captain Jordan Skelton
breath.
steps up for
And a big
Knoxville
kick.
and just, you know, laces
Right
one
into the roof of the net.
top of the net. Really no chance for
Absolute
Lexington's
conviction.
Amal Knight to
No
get
doubts
a hand
whatsoever.
on that one. So both teams mark in the first round. We have Ates Diouf step up for
With the
Lexington
stutter step,
in the second
goes
round.
to the left this time,
Sends Garibay the
and gets the
wrong
desired
way.
result.
So Lexington stays perfect through 2 rounds here.
Garibay again doing his homework. That's it.
So again, we have another defender step up. Danny Fernandez, fellow center back partner to Jordan Skelton, step up.
And instead
really,
goes for placement. My goodness.
Probably the nicest penalty of this shootout, just the way he's able to open up his body and just finesse that one into the side netting, pretty high up in the air. Very few keepers are going to be able to get to that one.
In the next round.
So 2 for 2 for both teams. We have David Loera step up for Lexington here.
Loera do about it.
A short little run up.
Roll it confidently down the middle.
Gives the hips to Garibay, and unfortunately he can't get his hands on that one as well. So Lexington stays perfect through 3. We had Kingsford Ajay step up for Knoxville and had his shot saved in the 3rd round. So
to take the lead.
Lexington consolidates their advantage in the 4th round
into
with
the bottom left corner.
Another converted penalty by Azad Liadi, former Huntsville City man. That is the MLS Next Pro affiliate of Nashville SC. So if you follow Nashville, you might be familiar with that name. Gio Clickstro steps up here, keeps Knoxville's hopes alive with a really well-taken penalty in the 4th round. I think Gio Clickstro has come on as a substitute in the last couple of matches, and I think really made a good case for him to be a starter for this team as they kind of enter that critical, late season stretch. And lastly, Nico Brown here steps up in the 5th round and secures the 2 points for Lexington.
Lexington get the extra point in the shootout.
Unable to
get
the 2 points or the 3 points that they needed to really keep in contention for the knockout rounds of the USL Jägermeister Cup. Let's just take a look at the standings right here. Knoxville is part of really the most competitive group that we've seen in this inaugural edition of the USL Cup. While they are just 3 points back from first place Forward Madison in this group, seeing as Knoxville can now only equal the point total for Madison, unfortunately the tiebreakers are already clinched in Forward Madison's favor. The first tiebreaker in group play is head-to-head play. Madison and Knoxville both played each other home and away as part of the group play. Both teams won their home match, so 3 points each. That one, then it goes to the second tiebreaker, which is regulation wins in group play. Now, Forward Madison has already had 5 regulation wins going into the final match day of this USL Cup. And unfortunately, even if Knoxville won in a couple of weeks against Georgia Tormenta in that final group stage match, they could only have a maximum of 4 regulation wins. So you see let's just go back to the standings again. You'll see the E next to Madison here for eliminated on the group play front. So now the only way for Knoxville to qualify for the knockout rounds of the group stage, the knockout rounds of this USL Cup, would be the highest scoring team that was not a group winner. Now, unfortunately, they would have to score just, at least 7, I think, in that final group stage match to even have a chance to equal a Union Omaha team that has already scored 13 times in group play. Knoxville only has 7 goals in 7 matches. So it's going to be, Knoxville is probably going to have to, focus on the remainder of the season on that USL League One regular season. They do have, like I said, 1 match remaining in USL Jägermeister Cup play, but unfortunately, barring a goal outpouring like we've never seen from this Knoxville team, they are going to be eliminated in this Jägermeister Cup inaugural edition, which is, like I said, a shame given how well they were able to compete in a Group 2 here. That was really one of the more competitive of the 12 teams for this USL group stage of this new tournament. But Knoxville does have, they've started very strong in the opening first half of the League One season. So they will be looking to not only, solidify their playoff position, they're also, in a good spot to potentially, be in the mix to host a playoff game, which could be really the ace in the hole in that USL playoff rounds that could make all the difference. We've talked about the rivalry between Lexington and Knoxville plenty of times before. This was the first professional game for either team, was the home opener for Knoxville last year when they hosted Lexington, in the first pro game for either club. And while Knoxville did end up losing this match in a shootout, they still have, a huge advantage, historically against Lexington in this rivalry. That shootout loss, does technically go down as a draw in Cup standings. So they are still unbeaten in regulation against Lexington in 6 career matches. You have 4 wins for Knoxville and then 2 draws. The most recent one, obviously, being that shootout loss that we just talked about. But we got some big news also from coming out of the USL headquarters following this match. Let me just pull it up right here. Lexington finally, this has kind of been an open secret amongst USL circles that Lexington would be moving up to the USL Championship. That is the second division league in the United States. They kind of has been an open secret that once Lexington does finish constructing their 7,500 seat soccer specific stadium kind of on the outskirts of Lexington, that they would be joining the second division league. So unfortunately, next year, we will not see the barrel brawl rivalry renewed unless, of course, they kind of change the format of the USL Cup a little bit to include those USL Championship teams. But, yeah, this is some big news. With USL, now that they've kind of been able to establish a fan base and, get a reliable TV deal and, kind of grow out of the infancy stage of both, those second division and third division leagues. It's really been there's been a huge emphasis on the infrastructure for clubs, whether that's, training grounds or your own stadium or things of that nature. So once Lexington built this 7,500 seat stadium, it really was kind of only a matter of time before they joined that second division. So it's going to be very interesting next year for Lexington to see how they're able to compete in that second division. When it comes to USL's League One season standings, they are at the bottom currently, but there's still plenty of time to make up that space. And I think one of the more interesting things about this move will be they will be able to cultivate a rivalry with one of the best clubs really in USL Championship, and that's Louisville City. Louisville City really has been kind of the gold standard to a large extent of USL Championship. They play in probably the nicest stadium outside of Major League Soccer. You kind of see this in this tweet here from Louisville City, Lynn Family Stadium. Beautiful stadium right there in downtown Louisville, also home to Racing Louisville, the National Women's Soccer League team. And so, yeah, it's going to be awesome to see this Kentucky Derby, a new kind of Kentucky Derby, as they call it, between Louisville and Lexington next year. Now, you might be saying, with the departure of one of these USL League One teams, what does this mean for the future of, USL League One, the league that Knoxville currently occupies? We've mentioned this a little bit before, but I'll pull up the expansion map for USL League One. And even though they will be losing this Lexington team here, we're already guaranteed at least 6 new clubs to be joining USL League One next year. That's going to be a really welcome addition, I think, to the calendar, just to kind of, break up some of the familiarity with a lot of these teams that have now, are playing each other, 4-ish times per season. So let's just start up here with the Northwest. You have a Portland, Maine team, Portland Hearts of Pine, that has generated a lot of buzz since they announced their full branding, their full crest earlier this year. They've sold, I think, over 2,000 season ticket reservations so far, and they're also going to be joined by a Westchester, New York team next year up there in the Northeast. So it's going to be nice to fill out the kind of Northeast part of the USL League One map here. Also down here, we're going to see USL League One return to Florida for the first time in several years with the addition of Naples FC right down there in southern Florida. So it's going to be a really interesting away trip for Knoxville and a lot of those southeastern teams to go down there to Florida. I don't think there's been teams in Florida in League One since the departure of the reserve teams for Inter Miami and Orlando City. Also set to join USL League One next year, we have Texoma right on the edge of the border between Texas and Oklahoma. Sherman, Texas, and then a couple of other cities kind of in this range. So we've seen a lot of exciting stuff coming out of their social media. They've already hired a sporting director who was working in the Premier League, actually. He was I think a director of player personnel with Luton Town. last year. So really exciting stuff down there in Texoma. And then over on the West Coast, I think a really welcome addition for the two existing clubs in USL League One being Spokane Velocity and Fuego. I think it's really going to help cut down on travel for those two teams with the addition of Santa Barbara Sky FC and the addition of AV Alta FC. AV, they're standing for Antelope Valley. That's a region of North Los Angeles County. They just broke ground on a renovation to turn a minor league baseball team, or minor league baseball stadium, in that area into a stadium for this USL League One team. So with that, we have at least 6 teams joining, despite the departure of Lexington, and we're still waiting on a little bit of news to come out. I think we will see in the coming months. We haven't gotten a firm determination on if Eugene up there in Oregon will be able to join in 2025. And they have made that clear that is their intention going into this 2025 season. But we haven't seen, some of those big announcements that we have, associated with the team that's on track to play in 2025, whether that's, the release of the team name, the release of branding, front office staff, coaching. We haven't quite seen that yet, but this is a USL Eugene group that also fielded a team in USL League 2, Lane United, for the last couple of years now. So the USL League 2 season recently ended. So we are hoping to see some news on the USL Eugene front in the coming weeks and months. Also, another announcement to look out for would be Corpus Christi. This has kind of been another sort of open secret amongst USL circles that this is a team that's been looking to join the professional ranks for the last couple of years now. They are in the process of completing the build-out of a 5,000-seat stadium with a couple of additional, soccer fields in a pretty sprawling campus down there in Corpus Christi. We've seen earlier this year, we saw some job listings for this Corpus Christi franchise that, made pretty clearly that they were joining 2025. So that's another one to look out for in this coming weeks and months. So depending on, what we hear from those two teams, we could have between, 18 to 20-ish temes. We might even, there might even be some other teams that we are not thinking about at this point that could be joining this team, this, USL League One in its 7th year next year. So we continue to see these lower leagues build out in preparation for the 2026 World Cup when, it's really largely expected that a lot of these teams want to ride a kind of wave of increased interest in the game with the World Cup coming to the United States in 2026. So I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about expansion in the coming weeks before the season is done. But now we turn to the focus for Knoxville, which is the USL League One season. Well, I'll pull up the standings here in league play. And like I've said before, this has been the stingiest defense in USL League One. They've only conceded 9 goals in their 12 league matches this year, but unfortunately they've only notched 12 goals on the offensive end for themselves. But despite, that kind of difference, they have really set a really nice floor for themselves through these opening 12 games, 20 points, good for 5th in league standings at this point. Top 8 teams in League One are going to qualify for the playoffs. So like I said, if they're able to kind of consolidate their lead and continue to be defensively solid, there's a great opportunity for this One Knoxville team to, end up in that top 4 and get to, host a playoff game at Regal Stadium, which would be an amazing accomplishment, I think, in year 2 of this new professional franchise. Also, a little bit of news to keep out for. We saw a little bit of a tease for a big announcement next week for Knoxville next week. Everything changes in 1 week. They posted earlier, I think yesterday it was. So we're looking for an announcement from from Knoxville here in next week. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the announcement of when that first game in the new multi-use stadium coming to East Knoxville will be. We already got the news from the Tennessee Smokies about their schedule for the 2025 season when they will be moving into that brand new, 7,500 seat multi-use stadium in East Knoxville, right on the edge of Old City, really right next to Hall of Fame Drive here in downtown Knoxville. That's going to be a great addition for both teams. It's going to be a great concert venue. It's going to be, a place where local groups can have, festivals and farmers markets and other sorts of events like that. So I think it's going to be a really great addition to the downtown Knoxville area. And we have been following that one closely as the construction continues over the last year or so. We've seen great progress, really no major setbacks that we have been heard of. You can check out, they've got a live stream camera available on that one, so you can keep up with the process for yourself. We've got an article on wate.com where you can check that out, or go to grandslamknox.com. They also have the link to that live stream of the camera there. So yeah, very exciting times for Knoxville as they enter this kind of home stretch in the USL League One season. I'll pull up the remaining schedule. Like I said, all eyes will be on Regal Soccer Stadium tomorrow when Knoxville hosts Chattanooga Red Wolves in USL League One play. Chattanooga's trying to really, jumpstart their playoff hopes as they're kind of on the bubble in that 8 to 10th place range of the standings currently. Now, this is the only team that has been able to score on Knoxville in their past 6 games. They've had of their last 6 games, they've had 5 shutouts, and the one goal came against Chattanooga in the USL Cup. It was a stoppage time goal conceded that sent that one into penalties. So it's going to be interesting to see how Knoxville responds, after a disappointing result against Lexington in the Cup, and see if Chattanooga can kind of continue their momentum. They've really, I think, taken a step, started to play a little bit better in these last couple of matches. So, like I said, tune in to WATE 6 News tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You'll be able to catch all the action right there. Next Friday, we are also going to see a first-time matchup for Knoxville. They're going to host Spokane Velocity, who was an expansion franchise coming into this year for the first time. Quite the trip over from the West Coast to come to beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee. So it's going to be exciting to see how Knoxville takes on a team that they have never faced before. It'll also be interesting to see, this will be a bit of a homecoming for Derek Waldeck. He was a part of the inaugural professional team last year for this One Knoxville team. He led the team in assists, I think with 5 or 6 last year from that left wing back position. So it'll be interesting to see him return to Knoxville. Then as we get into the fall here, and as the University of Tennessee women's soccer program kind of gets started, you're going to see Knoxville end their season on a bit of a road trip, with 3 of the last 5 being on the road. So after next Friday, when they are able to host that Spokane Velocity, your last chance to see them on a weekend will be this September 7th home matchup against Charlotte Independence. And then you're going to see a couple of road matches and to close out the season. Another one to keep an eye on will be this final road match against Lexington on September 14th. I mentioned the Soccer Pacific Stadium that they will be completing before their jump to the USL Championship next year. That's going to be done, as from everything they've been saying. That stadium is going to be complete in time for matches in September. So they're going to have their inaugural match on September 8th in the USL Super League. That is the new women's soccer league that USL just launched. It'll be their inaugural season this fall. That has been the big news out of that one, was that they received Division I sanctioning from US Soccer. So that is a top flight league, even though there already is one top flight Division I sanctioned league in the United States, being the National Women's Soccer League. So it's going to be interesting to see Lexington kind of get off the ground there with that inaugural USL Super League match on September 8th. But the first men's match is going to be 1 week later, when Knoxville goes on the road to Lexington at that brand new stadium on September 14th. So I'm sure Knoxville has that one circled on the calendar just to kind of maintain their historic dominance over Lexington that they've enjoyed over these last 2 seasons. So September 14th at Lexington, that's going to be another huge one. They'll also hit the road for a big match against Union Omaha on the 21st. Union Omaha is been really one of the perennial contenders in League One since they have joined, and this is another team that has made no secret that they are attempting to join USL Championship, that second division, in the coming years. They have, earlier this season, they announced plans for their own soccer-specific stadium right in downtown Omaha. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one unfolds. And Knoxville will conclude their regular season on Tuesday, October 1st. This was a rain out that from earlier in the season that was rescheduled to the end of the year. So they're going to host Forward Madison on Tuesday, October 1st. And as long as everything, barring a really disappointing end to the season for Knoxville, they've got an opportunity to enter that USL League playoffs, which will end 1 week after the end of the regular season. So about that second weekend of October, Knoxville could be potentially hosting USL League One playoffs. I'll put the standings back up here one more time. And like I said, they will be hosting Chattanooga, which is right on the cusp of the playoff line currently. But I know Knoxville is now all attention and focus turns to these final run of regular season matches to give themselves the opportunity to host a playoff match for the first time in their club's professional history. Of course, when they were members of USL League 2, that was one of the most dominant teams in a Southern Conference. They were they won that division, went on to the Southern Conference final. Were 2 wins away, I think, potentially for playing for a national championship. So to host their first professional playoff game would be another, watershed moment for this USL League One professional team. Before we go, I just want to mention some big news coming out of Europe overnight, kind of early this morning. We got some huge reports that former Tottenham Hotspur, former Chelsea Football Club, former Paris Saint-Germain manager Mauricio Pochettino has apparently agreed to become the next coach of the United States men's national soccer team. This has really been one of the, without a doubt, probably the biggest hire in U.S. men's national team history in terms of profile, in terms of pedigree. This is a manager that's coached really some of the best players in the world. A Lionel Messi at Paris Saint-Germain, a Neymar there. Harry Kane, Son Heung-min at Spurs was really one of the most dynamic attacking duos in the entire world when he was the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. He helped that club reach the Champions League final for the first time in their history. So if this is one that is able to get over the finish line, this is really, a watershed moment for the United States men's national team program. And pretty interesting thinking about both the women's national team and the men's national team would potentially be managed by 2 former Chelsea managers. Emma Hayes, who just led the women's national team to a gold medal at the Olympics, just last year was coaching the Chelsea women's side as well. So we're waiting now on the announcement from U.S. Soccer that this one has been finalized, but really a really exciting hire to kind of kickstart the anticipation of the 2026 World Cup here in the United States, also with many games in Canada and Mexico. But like I said, this is really a statement hire for this U.S. Soccer men's national team program, especially coming off a disappointing showing at the Copa America, unable to advance from group play. So a huge hire, really one that's going to be on the tip of the tongue of a lot of American soccer fans once this one gets announced, and really over the next couple of years as they continue to prepare for the 2026 World Cup. Well, like I said, Bo will hopefully be back next week for Soccer Talk, but if you can't wait till then, like I said, don't forget to turn on WATE Channel 6 tomorrow at 7 o'clock, where you can watch Knoxville host Chattanooga Red Wolves at Regal Soccer Stadium. That's going to be a great interstate rivalry that's continued to kind of, blossom as both teams have kind of grown in their professional lifespan. So yeah, tomorrow at 7, don't miss it on WATE 6 News. We'll be back next Thursday to break it all down and some of the other big news out of the soccer world. We have, the big leagues in Europe are starting this weekend. So a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, and we will talk about all that and more at Soccer Talk next next Thursday with Bo Williams, and maybe we can get a guest. I would also recommend anyone check out the interview I got to do with Jalen Chrysler last week. The One Knoxville SC defender came in last week to talk about, what's it been like being a part of this professional side. This is a player who's also, coaching at the youth level in Knoxville's youth academy. So we talk about some really interesting stuff there, and just kind of, their goals for the rest of the season and what it's like being, a professional soccer player in this league, in America, at this level, as they continue to kind of grow in terms of profile and the investment into some of these American soccer leagues. It's really exciting stuff. A really interesting conversation with Jalen Chrysler is available on the Knoxville soccer section of the WATE.com. So yeah, check that all out. We got the game tomorrow on Channel 6 against Chattanooga. That should be a fun one, and we will see you guys all next Thursday. Have a good one.